I'm Leigh Brown. This is Crazy Shit in Real Estate. And today it's so crazy that I lost control of my own show because I'm hanging out with Matt Kelly from Augusta, Georgia. And Matt wanted to ask me questions. So being a good realtor, I said, sure, let's roll with it. So buckle in for one of my longest episodes ever. I think you'll enjoy it. And if you make it all the way through to the end, there's even a crazy story for you. Enjoy the conversation, and I'll see you on the other side. What's up, Matt Kelly? Oh, no, you muted yourself. You were about to say something spicy, I could tell.
You just got me on. I even put my Rogaine in today, for my confidence.
You're kind of young for Rogaine.
I'm 29. So my wife says.
So I'll tell you a funny story. One of the friends I grew up with, literally we were in the nursery together at church. When we turned 21, his hair was thinning and we were all out. We were visiting one night. We'll just say that we were all visiting late at night. And he said, I got to find a woman before the rest of my hair falls out.
You get up here, you're on a timeline. You got clock's ticking.
He's married to the most amazing woman. They have these beautiful kids, and it got real thin real fast after that.
That's what happens, right?
He doesn't listen to my podcast, to my knowledge, so this story is completely safe because he runs a trucking company. If he ever hears this episode, I'll be shocked.
Well, maybe it's just the one that he listens to, the single one, right? And then you're just...
So, Jason, if you're listening, I won't say which Jason it was, but you and Matt can be homies.
I love it. Yeah, I'm all jacked up. I'm all jacked up this morning.
You jacked up. What's on your shirt? Is that your little logo?
This right here? Oh, that's just the Braves. This is, I run the parade, or I help run the parade for the Irish American Heritage Society down here in Augusta.
For real?
And look, we always need volunteers, and we pay in Miller Lite and Guinness. So bring it on.
Guinness, yes. Miller Lite, no. That is like water compared to Guinness is the real beer. But the question is, do you serve it cold or not? Because that's the marker if you're serving it correctly.
Depends on the time of day. How long it's been sitting
in Georgia, if it's cold to start the day, it won't be cold for long.
No, exactly.
Okay, how did you come to run the Irish Parade? How did you get that volunteer job?
I'm in the society. I'm Irish, and they said they need help. I'm a boots on the ground guy. Said this would be fun. And 2019, I got involved, and I was like, this is awesome. And so one of the guy who ran it stepped down, so the next guy's up, and then now I'm helping him. So in about 2 years, he's stepping down. So then it's my baby for probably about 5 or 6 years.
So I'm going to ask a question delicately. Are people stepping down 1,000 years old and you're the youngest guy in the society? Is that how this happened? Or is it because you're a perky realtor guy?
No, I think the last two guys, it's kind of, they pick someone that's younger to run it. It's kind of your little rite of passage in a way, I think. Or I think it should be. I think everyone that wants to get involved needs to help with the parade at least 1 year.
I think they should, because how often can you say you helped organize an Irish parade?
It's a blast.
How did it land in Georgia? You're in Augusta, right?
Augusta. Mm-hmm.
How did you get an Irish contingency there?
That's a great question. It's just been around since I've been born. I think my dad was a past president. He ran the parade for, I think, 8 years when he was my age. So This was kind of like, if he did it, I got to do it. So
I'm going to give you a homework assignment, Matt. I need you to find out why there is an Irish community in Augusta, Georgia.
I can do that. Get
your ancestry.com out and look at the stories. Where did they start? Like my daddy's side is Welsh. And so we trace that back to the early 1600s. Mm-hmm. But nobody really cares about the Welsh because we're kind of boring.
Yeah, you have, what is it? I was just talking about the Welsh. Toffee. Wales, you have toffee.
I've never been to Wales, so I have to go have some toffee. I have had Welsh rabbit, but that's not really a Welsh thing, I don't think.
Yeah, the Irish, the United Kingdom pool of food is a little bland. I'm not going to lie.
But the Guinness, though.
Guinness is good. The Guinness is good. We drink to forget the food.
Oh, I used to love a black and tan. Then I found out about a snake bite, and I love a snake bite.
Ooh, okay. I like it.
But it's good for you because the apple cider has vitamin A, I think. So it's really kind of healthy.
Just keep telling yourself that.
Well, since I drink approximately 1 beer every 6 months, I'm pretty sure I'm fine.
Pretty good.
Okay, so tell our audience who Matt Kelly is. They already know the Augusta piece. Now they know you're Irish, you're 29, and your hair's falling out. So tell them something about your professional life.
got into real estate 3.5 years ago at this point. Yeah,
Is that
October 2019. So started, and then COVID happened. I was working 2 jobs for the first 3 years prior. And then I remember when I started in October, I left my job at a golf course, waited tables at night while I was taking the classes at night. 2 jobs. Yeah. And then waited tables at night, worked real estate from like 8 to 4. And then probably 5-6 nights a week, I'd wait tables. And then COVID happened and the restaurant shut down, and I got a nice little $700 a week from that whole deal. Remember when they were paying out everybody all the PPP money and stuff. And so I was getting like a $700 check a week, and I got to do full-time real estate for about a month. And my goal was always to, I think it was 5 transactions on my desk at once. I said, that'll give me enough time to quit and go full-time. And COVID really catalyzed that. And, they say what you do today is seen 6 months or 6 weeks from now. So relatively in that time frame, pretty much, it was crazy. It got super crazy. And I said, Jim, we went back to the restaurant, and I think in 2 weeks back at the restaurant, I put my time in. And from there, the craziness began.
I'm writing down what you said. What you do today shows up in 6 weeks, because I love that. I've never heard that phrase said that way.
It's a good one. It's a really good one. So I got that from a woman I met at the Leading RE conference in Vegas last year.
Who was it? Do you remember who said it to you?
Her name's Amanda. And I'm so sorry, I can't remember her last name, and I'm going to send this to her because she's going to kill me. Amanda Spears out of Montgomery. She's a big team leader out there.
There you go. So you just saved yourself, because when Amanda gets tagged in this and hears it, she was about to be like,
oh, yeah.
Now, Amanda, you got all the cred. I'll credit you. Matt credited you. And Leading RE got a shout too. So everybody should be happy. Okay. So you just told the most interesting angle. And I always love when a new angle appears. And I was with a local association yesterday, and one of their questions was, how do we manage all the part-time agents, right? Because a lot of part-time agents are part-time because they're just dabbling, they're not really dialed in. But some of them are like you, they are trying to figure out how to navigate it so that they can go full-time. And so they're a limited part-time agent. But your point was so relevant. And now I'm curious as to how many real estate pros out there got in during the COVID, and then the COVID shut down their part-time job, but now they had a little bit of revenue coming in. So they were able to go ahead and pursue real estate. It's such an interesting angle to think about. Not that there's a great way to chase minute data like that, but it tells such an interesting story. But it also tells the story of how hard you were working to try and get off of the other hamster wheel so you could get onto the hamster wheel that never ever stops. So it doesn't. It's a pretty good story, because it's also the story of a hard worker. So what have you taken from the 3-job environment of part-time real estate agent, waiting tables, and whatever that 3rd job was at the golf course? Did I already forget the 3rd part-time job?
Nope, I was just doing maintenance. I actually kind of kept some presence out there. I'll caddy like 5 or 6 times a year. That's a lot of fun. I love taking a Monday off to go caddy and meet some people with money. Oh,
is that why you caddy?
Oh, yeah.
Do you know things too? Are you helpful as a caddy?
Oh, God. If you're with me in a tournament, you're not winning. It's okay. That's okay. I'll show you a good time.
But the beverage cart girl totally knows where to find you, right?
Oh, she gets stopped every time.
I worked the beverage cart when I was at Chapel Hill over at the golf club, which is how I got to meet Michael Jordan. Okay. All of us that were running the bev cart that day were like, it was intimidating.
Is Michael Jordan the kind of guy that hands you $100 bill just for saying, hey, or is he a little more strict?
Let me just say that the version of Michael Jordan that you see on TV and in interviews is not the same version you see on the golf course. Okay. We'll just let it lie, because he's still an icon and he is the GOAT. I was going to say the greatest of all time, but I'll be young and say GOAT. And his behavior on the golf course, I don't think has to be indicative of anything related to his awesomeness on the basketball court. Was that a fine way to say it? That's
a great way. I'm sure he's a great time.
The guy that was a good time was Woody Durham, who was the lifelong announcer for the Tar Heels. And he came to that country club as well. And Woody was an absolute delight. So I'll toss that in. Some people are delights and some people are goats. So anyway, let's talk about your first time in real estate. And you suddenly are riding the white hot market that nobody saw coming, because at the beginning of COVID, Everybody thought we were going to die. The streets were going to be piled in bodies. And then the market stopped for a second because nobody knew. Then suddenly we realized, okay, there's going to be a way to manage this. And the market went crazy. How in the world does a new person navigate a market where even the seasoned people don't know what to do? I mean, I'm 23 years in. I've seen all kinds of markets. I had to learn how to adapt to the new market too. So who guides a new person in a new market? What'd you do?
I would say what I learned was to spend your energy well.
Oh, I like that.
What can you do the most of that where at the end of the day, it makes the time go by. You don't feel like, oh, I just worked 8 hours or I just worked, whatever you work. So for me, what I found was video marketing was huge. I like being gimmicky and I like getting involved. Really like getting involved. And maybe it makes me a little bit of a bad friend, but I love having hundreds of friends. I love being pulled and, I like knowing this person. And so getting involved in the, hundreds of, I wouldn't say hundreds yet, but the tens of organizations that I have been contributing to, that's just kind of where I got my role, just being everywhere all the time. Because I am not a data entry person. My database skills will absolutely horrify you. I've been working for like 2 years on how to outsource my CRM and it's just been just being everywhere and it doesn't get tiring. And that's what's kept me going this whole time. That's been from day one.
Kind of snipping a TikTok video here of the tens of organizations you're involved in, because that was freaking hilarious to go just say the tens. That's funny. But with your organization piece, I'm going to mama hen you here for a second because you're never going to get organized on that front. You're just not wired for that when you're Mr. Networker. But instead of looking to hire some virtual person or some offshore person because it's inexpensive, right there in your local market, you can find some amazing, probably stay-at-home mom who's now put her kids at the school because she can't take it anymore. And so from 10 to 2, she would love to come in and be a part-time specific resource for you because you don't have to hire a full-time person, but you need somebody that can come in and basically rifle the approach. Don't be a shotgun, but we're going to rifle the database and make you sit down, Matt. Who is Joe Kelly? Who is Joe? How did you meet Joe? You'll be like, oh, Joe.
Which one?
She's like, focus. Who is Joe? That person will save your life because at your stage in your career, if you get a hold of that now, dude, your career will do greater things than those of us who looked at it 10 years in and said, oh, shit, it's gotten away from me now, because it gets away from you as you get longer in the tooth and busier.
So I know this is your podcast, and I'm trying to make sure I don't ask you a bunch of questions, but I have so many questions to ask you.
You should totally ask. We'll just change this episode up and make it the Matt Kelly Show, because it says that what you do today is the results you have in 6 weeks. Thanks, Amanda.
You can come on my podcast and I'll ask you a bunch of questions. How about that?
Oh, let's go.
That just got launched. I'm excited. Jenny,
really, what's the name of your podcast?
Is Market Shakers with Matt Kelly and friends. Yeah.
So are you going to have video attached to this podcast?
I have a little bit. One thing that I've done really, really well this year is take on video. And I've actually, somehow my broker's behind it. And we're the only brokerage in Augusta that has a full-time on-demand video crew. And
that's a pretty impressive investment to make. So do you use that to help clients feel comfortable with the kind of marketing they're going to get?
Absolutely. So all 4K, it's built for YouTube, Google, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, you name it. And it's a really exciting product. I was dabbling in it last year with him. And I said, man, this is really expensive. How do I find a way to bring my broker into this to take some of those costs off of me while also elevating the brokerage and elevating the other agents within the brokerage? So I think it's a huge draw for recruiting the right type of agents that I believe are going to be the successful ones for tomorrow, and to the other benefit me as well and to help me make more of these videos.
Okay, so as a broker, I love what you just said. So I'm just going to echo it for the people in the back. You didn't just go to your broker and say, hook me up because I want it because I'm amazing. You said, if you bring this in, it benefits me and it benefits the brokerage. You had a suggestion that benefited everyone. So high five for understanding that your broker is not just a endless parent money pit that actually agents are kind of like teenagers when it comes to brokers, but you treated it like a grown up. And I love that. And now I'm thinking I should hire a videographer. So where did you find your videographer hired?
Victor Kamanga, Everything Productions, or Everything Media, Everything Media.mp4. You can find them on Instagram that way. And you can see all my lovely stuff too.
So how did you find him? How did you find Victor? At the golf course? At the Irish Parade?
No, actually, a lot of my people I surround myself, they were like first come, first serve. And he messaged me probably 2 years ago and said, hey, Matt, you're doing your own videos. Let's elevate it. And I'll do the first one for free. And I was like, oh, free, you say? Okay. And we just been killing it ever since.
Oh, I love that. He got the freemium going and sucked you right in, because who doesn't love
me right in? And now he does the videos for the second largest brokerage in the area, the CSRA. And he is the video guy. So I'm very pumped for him. And he's doing some big things all across the Southeast. I'm sure he'd love to come up to North Carolina, your neck of the woods, right, and do some stuff for you.
What are you going to do if I steal him away from Augusta and he says Concord's a heck of a better market? Leigh Brown's more fun than Matt.
Oh, God, here. This is where it all falls apart.
Well, I'm not evil playing, but hang on. I put my read glasses back on. I don't look as threatening that way. How about that?
There we go. So,
okay, so ask me a question. Seriously, this will be fun.
All right. Well, your name came up. My wife and I, we do this. We got into it a few years ago. We call it preventative maintenance therapy. We just meet with our therapist or counselor and scream at her for about an hour and get all of our stuff out. Kind of helps us stay in line, because I do a bad job of doing it, of making a point to do it outside of that room.
Yeah.
And your name came up, and we'll get a little real here for a second. I said, there's this woman named Leigh Brown in North Carolina, and she's hyper involved. She's the president of the North Carolina Association of Realtors. She runs a brokerage, sells a ton of property and real estate. And I think she has a happy marriage. You can't exactly tell, but it sounds like she has a happy marriage. I want that, right? I want that. And I'm having trouble in my younger years at 29, figuring out how you do it. So how do you do it?
Right. So the first thing is COVID saved my marriage. Let's lay that out there. We had we were working in two different roads, and it's not that a person was on a bad road. We were just on different roads. Suddenly we got put in the foxhole because he got sent home to work. He's been at home working now since March of 2020. And we had to get to know each other again. And turns out that's great. We love to make each other laugh, and we see the world in really similar ways. And then when we don't, it's hilarious. And so we're closer now than we've ever been. Mm-hmm. And we're 20 years this year. So we're slightly ahead of you on the time frame. But in addition to that, the key for us has been understanding where we want to be in the same space and where we don't. He is an engineer. I am married to a spreadsheet who does not want to be around our people because we are exhausting. Realtors are a lot for him. So he'll go to a couple of conferences. He's made his half a dozen friends, and he doesn't want to talk to 400 people. I do. I want to hug everybody and make a selfie with everybody. Like, how are you?
Y'all work together, correct?
We live in the same house and raise kids together. He does not have a license, and he does not want one. And I don't want him to have one. I want him to stay over in engineer world.
Okay. I understand.
That's where he belongs. He doesn't belong with our people because our people exhaust him. But by the same token, we know each other really well. And I'm lucky because he doesn't care if I go do big things. And he goes with me because I talk about him on stage all the time. As everybody knows, I call him my first husband. He hates that joke. I find it to be hilarious. But I think it's just a matter of communication, right? It's figuring out what's going on. And the only thing I nag him about two things. I'm a runner. He's not. And so the part of the reason I run at 4:30 is because it doesn't interfere with anybody else's time. And I feel guilty as all get out if I run at 5:30 because I didn't run during the day. Because then I think I'm taking away from the time I could be visiting with him and fixing supper. So I sacrifice for me so that I'm not sacrificing him. Although I nag him that he needs to work out because I don't want to be a widow any sooner than I have to. And then the other thing that I nag him about is his future dreams, because I'm a dreamcaster and I'm like, I want to do this and I see this opportunity and I want to bring this person with me, and I'm forever generating new things. And he has been in the same job for 25 years. He's basically an old person because he's in the first place he's worked since college. He's just moved up the ladder. And he doesn't necessarily want to go do anything else big. And so I hammer him about that because I think he should have dreams, but he doesn't. And that's fine. And so that's how we got chickens. We frankly got chickens to have something to do together. So if you and your wife really want to become bonded, get chickens. So when she's listening to this, you totally want chickens. And Steve didn't want chickens. And so I ordered them. And then they came to the house. And the story of how we got chickens is he was not happy with me for a minute because he didn't think we needed them. And I felt like we needed something to bond over and have the children be a part of us. So we could engage with our teenagers. And so I ordered the chickens, and I wasn't really traveling because it was the end of COVID and I was doing a lot on Zoom, but I had this 1 weekend trip in Savannah with my mastermind girlfriends, my real estate besties. And so I was in Savannah. The phone rings at 4:30 a.m. and it was Darlene from the post office. Now, Darlene's been smoking 3 packs a day since before you were born. So I was, hello, Leigh Brown, come get your chickens. And I was like, oh shit, Darlene. And of course, we're in a small town when we know the post office lady, and all you could hear in the background was, and I was like, and so I texted Steve because I knew he wasn't awake because my husband's a night owl. He is not awake. And he was already irritated because Darlene called the house phone, my cell phone, his cell phone, trying to rustle somebody up. I said, go get the chickens. And he said, they're not open yet. I said, they're there. Darlene's there. Go get the chickens. And so finally he gets up at 8 o'clock and he goes over there.
Only 4 hours later.
He pulls up out the post office, and before he gets out of his car, he can hear them because if you don't know this, chicks are really loud. He hears them outside the building, and he walks in the door, and the staff was standing there, and they shoved the box at him. And he was like, how did you know the chickens were mine? They're like, nobody else comes as early. Take the chickens. So he sends me a video, and he's not happy with me because I'm out of town, and he's got to bring the chickens.
Got to deal with all these dang chickens you brought on him.
And I forgot to mention, he's from New York. So he's not exactly the kid who grew up on a farm like I did around all the chickens. So then it turned into how do we manage this? And now the blessing is, and he kind of admits it sometimes because he has a favorite named Sophia, but he can get out of the house on his conference calls and go hang out with the chickens for a minute and breathe. So anyway, long story short, talk to each other and get chickens. It's the secret to a happy marriage.
Put that on the Spark Notes. That's going to be a wild Spark Notes right there. Where'd this conversation just go?
And then she's going to say, where did you get them from, Leigh Brown? And I'll say, I got them from Cackle Hatchery. Cackle Hatchery, we bought the surprise box. And the surprise box of chickens came with a turkey in it. And so now we have this one turkey and all these hens, plus a couple of roosters. It's definitely been a surprise. And I think that's the joy of my Instagram life now, are all the people that watch for my chickens.
I don't think I've seen the chickens come across. I got to get the videos.
They're mainly in stories. There's actually one from yesterday. Goliath, my turkey, she was making her happy sound while she was eating a treat. And it's the cutest sound ever. But the perk, too, is that we can give eggs as closing gifts. And in this economy, that's basically the best gift any realtor could give their clients.
You're dropping gold bars on people. It's eggs.
Essentially. I mean, I literally asked this one closing 2 weeks ago, I said, would you rather have a Cutco knife or eggs? And they're like, oh, are you serious? And I was like, yes. Like, eggs. I was like,
perfect.
Sorry, Cutco, we love you, but you lost out to eggs.
Look, I'll take that trade every single day of the week.
See? Especially
right now. I don't know when that's going to get better. Well, I guess they have some more chickens to grow up.
Well, we won't take this episode in that direction because I have my thoughts, but, we'll keep it neutral.
I love it.
So what other questions do you have for me? Oh, actually, the other secret to managing all the things is your calendar. And so, for example, I told you about getting that stay-at-home mom to help you with some things. I couldn't do any of this if I didn't have a great team that worked with me. You a paper guy too?
The YouTube folks, this is my March so far. I think this gives people anxiety, but this is my March.
I love it. Is that your scheduled out videos?
Vegas, leading RE trip, awards nights, weddings, broker course. I'm in my brokerage course right now. I'm looking. That's awesome.
Oh, yay.
Shout out Frank Mears, whatever we're volunteering for, birthdays. It's just everything.
And that's the key, right? So where's your date night in there?
My date night Wednesdays, every Wednesday. So we're spending time with each other with friends on Wednesdays.
When do you spend time with just her and not with friends?
It really depends. Depends how it was more together when it was colder because pickleball is not as popular.
Right.
But as it gets hotter, it's more with friends. Look, pickleball is the most fun sport ever. That I can play right now.
My clients won the gold medal at the senior games in North Carolina. Like my client's basically a pickleball celebrity.
I'm not surprised. That doesn't surprise me a single bit.
So I gave her some Brunswick stew. That was my prize for her.
I mean, the pickleball, these women you go out there and you'll have a 65-year-old lady and she won't even take a single step and she'll just clean you out. That's my favorite part. That's my favorite part about it. I was like, it is an even playing field for all ages. And I love that.
So do y'all have kids yet?
No kids. That's kind of in the works. One of those, it's the balancing act. I recognize I'm in a unique position or an advantageous position. It's not unique that we don't have kids right now. So my priorities are not what I choose. And, I've chosen to just the involvement. I've just started my GAR Leadership Academy. So that started up this year. And got my taste of the GAR conference back in January. So that was just a whole lot of fun. Or maybe it was early February. I can't remember. But one of the 2 months.
In Columbus, you had some good people down there.
And I met some really cool folks that and that just puts your internal scale on such a different level, right? You just realize how big it can get. And then it continues on with NAR, with national level. And that's something that I want to get to one day, but that's kind of the macro plan. The micro plan is more local level. So the leadership programs, the huge advocates for safe homes of Augusta, which we just raised $34,000 for victims of domestic violence. If they're like a big talent show thing, that was the whole thing. We did a playground for leadership in Columbia County last year, finished as a 2-year project. That was the first playground in the area that is built specifically for kids with special needs. So that was a whole lot of fun. And right now I'm working with Leadership Augusta and we are planning a wing fling. We're not sure yet. We haven't determined what it's going to raise money for, but we're going to raise a lot of money. Have a band, and we'll invite a bunch of local vendors in and have a wing off.
A wing off. So I guess it's only on the sauce, or is it on the cooking style too? Because people bread them and then they fry them. The air fryer, does that count? Air fryer version count?
Don't sleep on the air fryers. It sounds like you know that.
I have one, but it was a fight. I got the chickens in the house. Steve snuck the air fryer in the house. We'll just put it like that. It was payback.
I got one good line I think you're going to like. I work really, really hard to convince myself I'm not a used car salesman, because my marketing is goofy and it's fun. And I have a bit of hybrid where I take it more seriously. But a lot of my marketing, I got a video coming out where I'm going to be Macho Man Randy Realtor, and I'm marketing a house. Okay. And so my perspective is our commission checks are big. When we sell a house, we get paid a lot of money in 1 week. And a lot of people's perspective, right, is that we make too much money. And I think it falls back on us as realtors who don't spend that money very responsibly and don't spend the time they're allotted because of their closings, because of their clients, in an effective manner that gives back to the community. It makes everyone better. I think my commission check I try to think of it as more that person or those clients' investment in their community. And I want to give them their bang for their buck.
I love that. That's a great angle. I was just thinking it's seed money, like you're putting seed money into the community with what you're doing. So, I mean, it just,
I believe I'm worth the 3% or the, on listings.
You're worth the X percent. X
percent, excuse me.
We don't know what number you might charge. Anybody can charge anything because real estate is competitive.
So I'll tell you this, my listing per commission that I asked for is higher than most people, because I deliver, I think, a higher quality product. And like I said, but my viewpoint on why that is because I'm also spending a ton of time. I could argue my work weeks are 100 hours, 80 to 100 hours because of all the extracurriculars, but it's all community focused and I'm everywhere and it's a lot of fun.
It just makes it that much more rewarding, because if you know somebody that you did real estate with through some nonprofit you've assisted, you've got more in common than just that house. And that's a good way to live life.
It is. But I enjoy it. And one of my projects this year is to really try to get our demographics in our area for realtors is climbing like everything else. But there are a ton of very smart, very hardworking agents in our area. And there are a couple who I would think don't have the best intentions in mind for the community. And so one of my goals this year is, and my wife thinks this is my responsibility, but I feel like it's my responsibility, or I need to serve some part, but get them involved. We're the future of this industry. And, if you're not, I might get a little, what's the word here? Not controversial, but I'm just go ahead and say it's crazy shit in real estate, right? If you're a single young realtor and you have no responsibilities other than taking care of your house, and you are taking these big fat commission checks and not turning them into something more positive for your community, I think it's very selfish.
If you are remotely awake, then you know that we are heading into some really tricky economic times. We have home buyers that have put the kibosh on buying because they have interest rate shock. We have sellers who have found out suddenly their houses aren't dipped in 14 karat gold. And as a realtor, you are still trying to keep up with the business you have and trying to answer questions in the meantime, while also managing sky high fuel cost at the pump. Never fear, because my new video course is coming out right now, and it's called How to Dominate During a Recession. Look, I've been a realtor for 22 years. I came through the last recession by the skin of my teeth. Actually, not even the skin of my teeth. My business went up every year during the Great Recession, and it's all because of education and getting in front of the curve so that I could serve as many neighbors as possible and help them weather this storm as well. So this course is 4 modules. There might even be some bonus content for you. And I have priced it so that everybody can get a hold of it and go out there and do great things for the American dream and for home ownership. The price is $199. Click on this link. If you take action, you can be the one who brings great information and great solutions, and also paired with realism and optimism into the marketplace that you serve. I am delighted to bring this out as quickly as possible because, friends, there's no time like the present to make sure our neighbors are stronger and we protect the American dream.
I think it's selfish, and I think you should be ashamed.
That's not even crazy. That used to be the norm. The sad thing is now, well, first of all, the fact that you worked multiple jobs to make it without relying on somebody else to do it for you, that is a unicorn. And then what you're suggesting is the unusual person who would pour into something bigger than themselves when it used to be something everybody should do. But you're right. It's like if you're taking from real estate exclusively and not actively giving back and helping shape the future of it, what are you doing? And actually, there was find my little note here, because I was with a group of leaders yesterday, and I asked them why they're volunteering, because I'm always curious about people have these different perspectives on how it's worth it. And I feel what your wife is saying, because it does feel a little hopeless from time to time because a lot of people ignore the message. But then you remember that the ones who ignored you, they were always going to ignore you. But that one person that heard you and said, oh, I didn't even know we did that. And then they get sucked in and then they make it better. They have to be worth it. But he said that volunteering makes him want to do better. I said, expound on that a little bit, because often we talk about volunteering as what we're doing for other people. He said being around a higher caliber of real estate professional makes him want to up his game. And I was like, that's a great way to pitch it, which might even be a pitch you could steal, because he was on the younger side too. And tell these younger people, if you want your real estate game to get better, dial in over here and appeal to their selfishness in an effort to build a community. It makes you a little bit spicy that they're not trying at all. But then again, maybe nobody asked them, because that's a problem too. Everybody wants to feel special and feel like their shoulder got tapped.
I guess where it really gets me is, especially with everyone's trying to build a brand these days. And when your brand as a realtor is based on how much money you make, you said something when we last spoke about why realtors need to stop talking about how much volume they sell every year. And maybe focus on more of how hard their clients work to get through that house and how many people you help. I love that. I love saying, we helped over 100 families move last year. I love that, because that person's bragging becomes associated with me.
Yes.
I don't like that. I don't like it. Don't like it. Takes me off. Sure.
Yeah, we're not all the same, which is until we change the public perception that thinks all realtors are cut from the same cloth, it's not going to get better, because their behavior does reflect on me in North Carolina, you in Georgia, what somebody out in California does. And frankly, they're all moving here, so we have to help their behaviors anyway. And so you start thinking about how we are interconnected. We got to do better, but that's why we volunteer, because we will affect somebody who is so excited to find their people, to find their tribe.
So I got another question for you. What your journey to your position now, president, North Carolina Association? Congratulations.
Thank you. I'm loving it. So much fun.
So what was that journey like? Abbreviate a little bit, but where did you get your start at? What was your first piece of involvement?
So my pathway is not like anybody else's. I'll just lay that out there, because in realtor world, there is a traditional pathway of become a realtor, volunteer with your local association, work your way through the chairs, become president, volunteer at the state, work your way through the chairs, become president, volunteer at national, work your way through the chairs. And the chance of being an NAR president is such a slim statistic anyway. People just work their way through the chairs and the positions, right? So I didn't have that trajectory. When I got into the business in 2000, I was joining my dad, who got his license in 1978. My dad was not an association junkie. And so what I would tell anybody is that there's a direct correlation between how involved you are and the brokerage with whom you align, because he focused me on doing the business really well. So I went to Howard Brenton and Star Power, and I was going to CRS and chasing profitability and production and selling houses. And my dad always, the most ethical, most competent, most knowledgeable, chase your knowledge, chase all that stuff. He just didn't see the association as a pathway for that, because it just wasn't something he did. Well, that was at the beginning of my career. And then after I got my CRS in 2003, it was probably in 2005, Active Rain starts. And I was one of the agents who was in that starting crowd on Active Rain when it was first getting going. The online world was so new. And people didn't have Facebook pages. It didn't have Instagram, wasn't even around. And then from there, I saw an opportunity to do some volunteering with CRS. So the Certified Residential Specialist designation has networks. So I called the president of the North Carolina chapter, and he was approximately 853 years old. And so I called him and I said, hey, I want to build a Facebook page for the North Carolina CRSs. And he said, you can't. I said, well, how come? And he said this is burned in my brain. You haven't volunteered enough to be allowed to volunteer.
Oh, I like that. I
said, wait, what? He said, you haven't volunteered enough. We can't let you volunteer till you volunteered. And I was like, oh my, I can't. So I hung up the phone and I was irritated. And then if I were some people, I would have just said, screw it, and gone on and sold more houses. I'm slightly not that person. So I said, you know what? I'll make the Facebook page anyway. So I built the Facebook page. I'm still the admin of it almost 20 years later, is for the record, because I've let the other leaders have the admin, but I kept my slot and built it because he wasn't on Facebook. He was never going to see it. And I followed all the rules. I used all the branding appropriately, but I saw there was an opportunity there to make the network better. And I didn't need credit for it. I didn't need to have a position for it. I just wanted to do something. And so that's where my path started. And so I've traditionally done more in the CRS network. I was the national president of CRS in 2017, so solid 6 years ago. And that was a wonderfully enlightening experience, because then you're hanging out with like hardcore people who are in this long-term, investing in classes, sharing like fiends. The referral network's amazing. I'm grateful for that experience. And so as I'm in the CRS path, I was doing some volunteering at the local board, but didn't really pick up any traction to become local president. And it wasn't really on my radar because I'm not a position chaser. I just try to find places where my talents might fit in and where I can engage, and I just kind of go for it. And then I got appointed to some presidential advisory groups at NAR, and I wound up volunteering at the NAR level before I did anything at the state level, which was completely backwards.
Wow.
I'm learning things and I'm meeting people and I'm networking, and I'm like, my voice is valued. They want to hear what my experience is. This is great. And so then I said, I need to be volunteering at the state. So I saw that I needed to be diving in where I am. So I started volunteering on some state committees. And then I said, well, I would love to lead this organization. This was several years ago. And one of the past presidents told me, you're not qualified. And I was like, well, why am I not qualified? I've been national president of an organization with 32,000 members. So I don't get it. But it's because I hadn't done it the traditional way. And so it was like a kick in the stomach, because nobody wants to have themselves told you can't. And I did realize, well, there's more I need to do. So let me go, shore up some stuff and get some more jobs done. And long story short, I've just continued to volunteer. Anywhere my hand raised gets me called on, I'm going to dive in. And this opportunity came up. And frankly, timing wise, my daughter's a senior right now. And so I wanted to have my North Carolina focus be at the time when I could mainly be driving to and from and not doing as much of the travel, so I could be around for that. So it's been great. And I will say the thing I love about it the most is just driving around the state, visiting with boots on the ground members, like brand new realtors. I got to pin a new realtor last week. I was at a local board that was accepting some new realtors in. And if you remember, you take the realtor pledge, and a whole class of realtors took it over Zoom. So that doesn't count. You got to go in person. So she stood there. I got to pin her, and I was like, I'm like a mom. This is the best ever. And so that's what I'm enjoying. And of course, there's also a lot of good governance work, and we're doing some really good cleanup that's going to provide more volunteer opportunities. Because if there's anything I really want to do as a leader, it is slap the door open and say, y'all come in here. Let's figure out where you belong and get some fresh ideas in the room, because the existing people are great and you need that institutional knowledge, but you've got to counterbalance that with some outside perspectives. And one of the things I've found we forget about in real estate is that most realtors did something else first, and we don't honor that to the level we probably should. So if somebody became a realtor today and they worked for, Accenture for 20 years, oh, hello, we need them on strat planning or finance, because they're going to look at it from a different perspective. A lady I talked to earlier, stay-at-home mom for 12 years. She's bringing in the ability to multitask and to manage multiple personalities in a really unique relational way. I want to hear from them what they saw coming in, because then our opportunities can expand. So anyway, long answer to your question, but you should totally be getting more involved, because the committee life is actually really fun when your leadership allows you to have a voice. And if the leadership doesn't allow for a voice, then you do things anyway, like I did.
Just create a Facebook page. 2017, I was laying asphalt, driving a shuttle buggy for ER Snell here.
What's a shuttle buggy?
It is the giant, my very first day I show up, it's like 6:30 a.m. It's colder than a well digger's ass. And there you go. You're going to get on this big machine. And I look at it, it's like the biggest, it's what receives the trucks, churns the asphalt. And when it's time to go into the spreader, it sends it up inside the vehicle up into like a conveyor belt. And so my very first day, we're on this decline that's curved. And so I'm having to have a steering wheel here, and you have a second steering wheel, one that operates the conveyor belt, and then one that operates the front end that you got to line up with the truck. And every day after that for the next 2 years was cake.
So what happens if you screw up? You dump your whole load of asphalt at one time, or it covers the cab up in asphalt?
The guy who ran the spreader had scars on his arms where the previous guy, that was probably why I was in that position, had not paid attention, and he dumped hot asphalt all over him. There's no hookup between it's just free dumping, steaming hot 300 something degree asphalt into this paver. And you have to make sure the bucket's tilted the right way. And it was a very, very fun job once you got good at it.
That's a man's job right there, boy.
I've done it all.
But aren't you glad you did that job?
Very much. What got me out of it was I was asked by the foreman to do dirt crew. And I thought I was going to get to do like some big excavation work. And they ended up giving me a shovel, and I was digging ditches for about 3 months. And that finally broke me. But, we're here for a reason.
I bet your shoulders and your arms were really cut, though. And your wife was like, you're hot right now.
Hot
Did
and dusty.
you notice all that?
Hot and dusty.
That's when you drink Coors Light or Miller Light.
Miller Light.
That's exactly. Not a Guinness kind of a position.
Not after a whole day of that in 100-degree weather. It was not. I was really tan, though.
And when you're tan, you just feel better. I know I'm going to look like a pocketbook one day, but that's fine because I like being tan.
So how much time we got? I got another question. I think you could really
ask me another question. This will be one of our more random episodes ever, but my viewers and audience love these. So go for it.
I love it. Yeah, I got that. And I got a crazy story. I got a few, but I picked one.
All right.
When we first met, I met you. You came and spoke at the Augusta Association when I was doing the Leadership Academy 2 years ago. And you said, Matt, I want you to go out and talk to realtors in different countries. And one thing I found was there's a guy down in Australia, and he's a broker now, Dan Plum, and he and I had a conversation about how they handle their listings. They don't exactly have these buyer agents, right? And I look at and we're not seeing it, but I think we're starting to see it again, the multiple offer situations. And I had these buyers going, well, Matt, what should I do? What should I offer? I don't want to overpay the next best offer by $5,000. And we can throw a clause in there that says, an escalation clause, those dirty things. But if there's multiple escalation clause, then it all gets convoluted and we're back to square one. What would it look like if we were to get rid of buyer agents and have I'm getting spicy here. What's your viewpoint on that? I mean, I want to communicate to a buyer that he is not overpaying for a house, because if that gets back to them because it wasn't disclosed by the seller, or the seller didn't get the listing agent permission to disclose, and they find out that they paid $10,000 of the next highest offer somehow, well, I'm getting chewed out. I'm getting sent a letter by an attorney at that point, and that scares me.
Well, we're in a blind bidding situation. So first of all, yes, that's one of the things that a savvy realtor explains to people before you ever get close to writing an offer is this is all going to be blind. My stomach hurts, your stomach hurts. But reality is, if we don't put our best foot forward and you lose it over $1, would you rather lose it over $1 or win it with 10,000 extra? And then if what they tell you is, I'd rather lose it over $1 than overpay by 10,000, you know exactly what you're dealing with that buyer. And so I think that's the best question we can be asking and letting them drive that bus. And you and I both know that's when you lose a couple of bidding wars and realize that to win, it may feel like you paid $10,000 too much, but we have no idea what the other offers were. And frankly, unless you saw the other one in writing and knew when it was delivered and who brought it, it could all be a smoke and mirrors game anyway. So that being said, I want to point out a little factoid about buyer agency. The same guy in DC who is chasing around getting rid of it because this is an emanating problem in DC is the same guy who in the 90s was screaming about how we had to have it. Now, about the time you were being born, we were pushing buyer agency through to become an option to be a fiduciary for buyers, because prior to agency, you had seller's agents and there were sub-agents of the seller. But a sub-agent of the seller puts everybody at risk. And so it's still legal in most places. It's just not recommended because of the volume of liability. So buyer agents, we've evolved big time, except that the guy who pushed us to evolve is the guy that wants to remove us because he says we bring no value to a buyer. Now, what I would counter that with right now, and especially look at multiple offers, a buyer without an agent has no hope, because as a listing agent, if I receive 14 offers and 13 have a professional handling it, and one is the dude who says he can do it himself, I'm going to present all of them to my seller, but I have an obligation to say, this one right here is going to be double the work for me. I'll do it if you want to. There's nobody counseling them. There's nobody to talk them off the ledge, let them know how things work. There's nobody legally to give them some counsel. These 13 have a professional. So the seller ultimately decides, but that person without an agent is most of the time just going to lose because they're a real risk to the seller. Now, that being said, when you look at why the government wants to interfere with buyer agency, their core argument is that it is unnecessarily inflating the cost of housing and that buyers are unnecessarily paying it. So we have to get back to how the dollars actually work. And so if you're selling your house and I'm your realtor and I charge a fee, that's an agreement between the seller and the listing agent. As a listing agent, I may then choose to compensate the buyer agent so that they will have compensation. That's traditionally how we've worked. But the misconception is that that money is coming out of somebody else's pocket. No, the dollars were agreed to between the listing agent and the seller. And so if the seller didn't want to pay a different number, they can negotiate that because everything's negotiable. But we look at the buyer side, and then you start to realize if you lose buyer agency, who is the most impacted? Spoiler alert, it's not the 1%, because they have a crew of lawyers that can handle anything. And honestly, so much real estate experience, they can make their way through. Your middle buyers at middle class, move up, move downs, they would probably figure out how to find somebody to help them. The most impacted would be your first time buyers, your first generation buyers, your people who their credit score is 20 points low and they need somebody to encourage them to get that fixed. And that's our most vulnerable American dream population, is that price point that needs somebody to walk them through the steps, hold their hand, say, yes, be upset about this. No, don't be upset about that. And that's who can't afford to hire anybody. And so if you take away buyer compensation, they can't afford it. Because I've worked with a lot of buyers in my career, because I work all price points. Their USDA, they're 0% down. Their VA, 0% down. It's not because they're sitting on Scrooge McDuck money. It is because they don't have spare money. And so if they're going to hire an agent, what are they going to have to hire them with? It's not going to be a whole heck ton. And whether we want to say it out loud or not, you get what you pay for. And so if you're going to get a highly knowledgeable, experienced, competent professional, that's not going to be the cheapest person in the marketplace unless they're doing the occasional pro bono deal. And I'm not saying that doesn't exist. I know there are great agents who charge all things. In general, though, the person who is at the top of their game has a poverty of time. And so the time that they do have, are they going to spend it on a paying client or a non-paying client? They're going to choose the paying client. So what happens? That opening price point into the spectrum anywhere winds up as renters 9 times out of 10, because real estate's complicated. There's a reason we have to carry errors and omissions insurance. Public doesn't know about that. They don't know about what material facts are. They don't know about disclosure, the fact that we are granted the public trust by the state governing bodies. I mean, it's a really big deal what we do. And we have to do a better job of explaining it from A, a compensation standpoint, B, why we matter standpoint, and C, the fact that we might be the reason they're able to get started in the process anyway. Now, in the past, we've told agents to explain that we really earn our money between contract and closing, because that's when the bulk of the steps happen. Reality is, and one of the reasons you're so smart to be heavily into video and into education, the buyer really needs to start seeing our value before they ever pick up the phone and call us, because they don't know what they don't know. And they call us, and then we find out, I don't know that either. Let me go dig in, because there's a bazillion things that can happen in real estate. And frankly, part of our job is not to know everything. It is definitely to be the source of the source. And let me find out. But imagine how lost that buyer would be without us to help them put the pieces together. So I worry about Australia, because if you're a buyer there, even if you want to hire an agent, the seller doesn't have to let you in because they don't want you to have representation. So when you have those kinds of problems, it means the one person who's getting left out is the one who's going to be paying the price in the future, because you don't make money when you sell a house. You make money when you buy it. So any government intervention is designed to hurt the end buyer. And I'm not okay with that.
Well, you sold me.
There you go.
Good.
And whoever was listening to this and forgot how to explain buyer agency, now you remember why. And if you're a buyer, the agent you pick should be able to explain this. So I actually mentioned this before. I had an Instagram message from a consumer, and she needs a new agent. Never met this person. She just follows my stuff. And she sent me all of her paperwork. And then she said, my previous agent was kind and heartfelt, but I kept losing out to other offers because she would not give me any advice. She just said, I can't tell you what to do. And so that's where, as agents, we have to do a better job explaining it, but then we also have to live it out. And so our job's not to tell them what to do. But it's like I said before, are you okay with losing over $1 or paying $10,000 too much? Present the scenario so the consumer can decide. This poor lady wasn't presented with the scenario to win. Drives me crazy.
There are people that want to tell you what to do, right? And there's some people that just need to be told what to do. But you got to do it responsibly, like you said, and in the correct way.
They'll drive it, right? The people who are going to make their own decision, they're going to drive the train. And the ones who are having a hard time, if they see an A and a B, they can manage A and B. What they can't handle is the Golden Corral buffet, because nobody should eat everything on the Golden Corral buffet, especially not that chocolate fountain. That's gross. And I kind of hope that COVID has killed that forever.
There's a Golden Corral like a minute from me. I might go check it out and let you know.
You could, because the yeast rolls are worth going for. I asked where my family reunion likes to hang out, because my family can eat.
Oh, I love that.
So I got to have your crazy story. So I hope all of you viewers and listeners are enjoying the Matt interview with Leigh show. This is so much fun. But now you got to tell us the story. What have you seen in Augusta, Georgia real estate that you couldn't believe it?
Okay. So last year, about this time, I was just getting my team off the ground. And one of the agents I brought them two at the same time. You ever want to talk about my experience with the team? That's a whole nother hour-long topic, so I won't go there. Brought two agents on, and one of them was brand new. And my job is I want to get her gassed up, get her ready, get her excited to learn. And I'm telling her about how awesome, meeting new people is. And because she's a little bit extrovert, introvert, but, this is a stranger. And we get this lead, and I'm like, I spoke with him on the phone. He sounds motivated. He wants to go. Like, you want to look at this house, we're going to put a contract on it. We're going to get you paid. And you've only been doing this for like a month. That's so awesome. Congratulations. Let's go meet him. So we take her on her first showing, and I'm fumbling with the lockbox. And all of a sudden, I've never met this guy in my life. And all of a sudden, we hear this thud. And I turn around and I see her looking down, and her face is just like, oh my gosh, this guy's gun flips out of his waistband and it falls pointed right at her feet. Right at her feet. This is her first showing ever. I think she's been a realtor. She had her license for a week. We closed on the house.
So he was just armed because he was protecting the public. He wasn't nefarious purposes.
He had the gun in his waistband. It's in his waistband.
You're never supposed to carry it there. That's dangerous, man. That's for TV shows.
It just falls out of his waistband. I was a little shocked. He apologized immediately. So it really, it dialed the situation down. I'm just like, welcome to real estate. That's the beauty of it. You never know what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah.
Did she get her sealed after that? Like she carries now, right?
I don't think so. She did a great job playing it off because I was a little mortified. I thought I was going to lose an agent that day at first.
So to speak.
Yeah.
We're not joking about death, people. We're not joking about any of that. But yeah, you have to laugh or you're going to cry.
Yeah, that was pretty good. When I got some other ones that are a little more X-rated, we'll have to keep we'll keep that on the private side.
Well, since we talked association stuff, we'll keep this one clean so the associations can use it. But the thing we should always be remembering too is there is an agent safety piece involved there. Mm-hmm. And the smartest thing that she did was take you, whether she realized it or not, because realtors should not be going by themselves on showings with strangers. Your lender will go with you. Your spouse will go with you. Your bestie in real estate will go with you, but you don't go by yourself until you've established a relationship. And I hate to remind everybody, but that's what happened to Beverly Carter in Arkansas 7 years ago. And you remember, have you heard the Beverly Carter story?
I have not heard the Beverly Carter story.
So Beverly, her son Carl is actually in real estate now because of his mother, and he teaches safety because it's a wild story. Beverly was like the put together, beautiful blonde agent, had her A game, got a call. Somebody wanted to see a vacant house, couple. She makes the appointment, goes out to show the house to them. And then they killed her and put her in a shallow grave. And then they had to go find her body. And of course they caught these people, but it's like she went out to show that house in good faith, thinking it was going to be just a couple. And then they don't just kill her. They put her body in a shallow grave. She never makes it home that night. And agents forget this because, especially if you've been in for 10, 20 years, you pick up the phone, you think you are good at reading people and you are good at sniffing out the sketchy people. And you never know. And so you should always have a backup person. And like with your new agent, he wasn't even sketchy. He just was carrying. And if you're unprepared to think about that scenario and how you'd handle it, then you got to take some safety classes and think about what your backup plan is going to be.
Yeah, we moved to the Ninja system. We don't buy leads anymore.
Oh, Larry Kendall, you took Larry's classes.
Larry's the man.
And Chris McElroy, got to give Chris credit too. He's Larry's business partner.
So we'll have to, if Chris is listening, he needs to talk about you a little more.
Chris will totally listen because, hang on, he sent me a new phrase he's using because he knows I love some good language.
Ooh, give me the details.
Here you go, Matt. I have not put this into any of the training yet. Let's see. Where's my text from Chris? He said anticipatory marketing. So we're not looking at the old, but we're working on the new, anticipating the future. And he said this actually belonged to Chris Doyle, not Larry. I love Chris. He's so funny. And for pricing, it's respectfully priced at.
Respectfully priced at.
Yes. It's not an aggressive price. And it's not a new price. It's respectfully priced. I was like, I love that price so much.
Respectfully priced. I'm going to go ahead and steal that. He can send me a letter if he wants to.
Legit. So since you're a ninja person, he'll say yes because he's from the firm.
Oh, yeah. They came down and did the installation, and I got my little note cards, note cards, the gold envelopes.
I mean, gotta love the gold.
Yeah, white, gold, and black. I just love it. I don't know why.
That's Georgia Tech colors. Did you go to Georgia Tech? Absolutely
not. I will log off right now.
Okay.
I went to Georgia Southern. Respectful education down there, and then but I'm secretly rooted for the Bulldogs when they played each other. It's just kind of how it brought up. I can't help it.
It's okay. You were going for a national championship. We all understand.
Look, it's good. I've been through it all. I was an LSU fan in 2004. My dad scared me more than ever in my life at the SEC championship game because I thought he was going to go to jail. An LSU fan poured a beer on me when they were beating the brakes off of us. And I was probably 11 or 10. And I thought my dad was going to throw him over the rafters.
Oh, you're sweet,
I was so proud but scared at the same time.
And see, I've only had respectful interactions with LSU people from College World Series. Carolina was in it in 2012. And so we flew out to Omaha and LSU was in there and we beat them. And we weren't supposed to beat them because LSU is a baseball dynasty.
Okay.
And my son, he was 5 at the time. He hadn't had his birthday and he was carrying his little baseball around. We saw some famous LSU player who'd been in the majors. I don't remember who it was now, but Timmy saw him and his eyes got as big as dinner plates. And he walked over to the guy and he was talking on his cell phone. And he said, hang on a minute. He put his phone down to talk to my baby and he signed the baseball. And then we walked on. So that's why I don't mind LSU.
Hey, look, they got a good place. They're in Baton Rouge. Is that where they're at? Baton Rouge?
Baton Rouge, Red Stick.
Yeah, they got a rowdy little place. You got to respect the fans who are that passionate.
Yes, and that kind. So tell your daddy for every player or every fan that throws a beer on his kid, there was a player that signed for another kid.
There we go. Balance. Good.
All right, Matt, if anybody's wanting to reach out to somebody who is a rising star in Georgia and is killing it, and frankly, if y'all want him to come back on the show and talk about his team stories, you need to put that in the comments right now. If you need more Matt, we'll do a whole team episode, pros, cons, good, bad, and ugly. Matt, how can they best find you if they're looking for you?
So they can call me at my cell phone. I love answering the phone and talking about the things I do well and not so well. 706-814-0998. Once again, that's 706-814-0998. And then you can look me up on Instagram. That's where all the fun stuff happens. So that'd be Matt Kelly _ your local realtor. And that's only because I can't put Matt Kelly _ your mama's favorite realtor. It's just too many characters. And I really wish they'd change that. But it's your local realtor for now.
Well, I mean, there is that terrible acronym MILF. So there's got to be a realtor one you can make up.
I like working at the association. I like to keep that job. So
I don't know. It depends on who's in charge at the time. They might find it to be funny or horrifying. Who knows?
So Stacy's listening. Stacy, I will not put you in that position to get rid of me.
All she's thinking is, I'm just going to send you over to Athens and be Lauren's problem. That's all she's thinking right now.
We'll do it.
But thank you for coming on the show and for changing up my format. This was actually super enjoyable. And I hope that all of my listeners and viewers enjoyed it too. So make sure y'all drop some love down here in the comment section. Ask some questions. Vote for Matt to come back. And we'll see you at the next conversation here on Crazy Shit.
Loved it. Thank you.
So if you found value in this episode, please like and subscribe to this channel, turn on the bell, and catch another amazing episode by clicking above. Crazy Shit in Real Estate is also available on all of your normal podcast apps. So if that's where you like to hang out, go find me, click subscribe, and most importantly, leave me a review that says you think I'm awesome, my guests are awesome, or this content is just exactly what you were looking for. And then, by the way, if there's something you need, you want to learn about something, you can comment below anytime. You can also send me a direct message if you need to remain anonymous. No judgment. But anyway, I'll only judge if you forget to subscribe and click. I'll see you next time.